Please just read the disclaimer. The information is not intended to diagnose or treat or cure any medical condition. Please discuss any changes in your life with your doctor. So there are various types of fasting. Prolonged fasting is considered to be fasting of more than 24 hours. Prolonged fasting is beneficial if you do it maybe about once a quarter, so every 3 months. The fasting mimicking diet is an example of prolonged fasting. So the fasting mimicking diet is over a 5-day period. A liquid diet is really not a fast, because with liquids, your body's still extracting energy from the liquids, so it's not considered to be a fast. A dry fast. So in a dry fast, not only are you not eating, but you're not drinking anything as well. The advantage of a dry fast is that it increases fat loss, because it pulls hydrogen from fat into the blood so that the body can make its own water. So you tend to lose more weight with a dry fast, but obviously it's quite a lot harder to do. Intermittent fasting is the easiest to do, and there are various forms. There's the 5-2 diet, which means 5 days of normal eating, 2 days of low calorie intake of about less than 500 calories over those 2 days, on each of those 2 days. There's the 16-8, which is 16 hours of no food, an 8-hour window where you can eat. Obviously, you're not going to be eating solidly for 8 hours. Then there's the 24, which is 20 hours of no food and 4-hour window of eating. In fasting, it's 0 food. So not just a little, unless you're going for the fasting mimicking diet, which is quite specific. It's 0 food, but you can drink water. The benefits of fasting, one of the main benefits is that when you fast, it helps to promote mitochondrial production. So if you look at this lecture and you tie it into the module on producing energy, and you see the importance of mitochondria, you can see that fasting, if it's going to promote mitochondrial production, is definitely beneficial. The other thing fasting does is it reduces the impact of insulin, and it reduces insulin resistance. And this, of course, is going to help you lose weight. But also, reduced insulin resistance actually reduces your risk of chronic diseases, because insulin resistance is closely associated with a lot of chronic diseases. Fasting promotes AMPK, and I'm going to discuss that just now. It also promotes 2 very powerful metabolic processes. The one is called autophagy. And basically, autophagy is like self-eating, and it's like a cleanup process, specifically the old mitochondria that the body's getting rid of. So any old cellular broken up cells, autophagy will help the body to clean those up. It's followed by the refeeding and the rebuilding. So when you're in a process of autophagy, you need to be in a process for more than 24 hours. When you start eating again, that process of refeeding and rebuilding, which is signaled by a signaling protein called mTOR, which is mammalian target of rapamycin, helps the body to heal. So the combination of the autophagy and then the rebuilding with mTOR is beneficial to the body. But the balance is really important. So calorie restriction is just cutting back on calories, and in general, calorie restriction is not successful. It causes the body to go into sort of a starvation mode. On calorie restriction, we tend to eat all the wrong foods. We're always hungry, so it causes brain fog, and it doesn't have the same benefits that fast. So what can damage the mitochondria so that the body needs to clean up the old mitochondria? Toxins, organophosphates, are very damaging to mitochondria. Antibiotics, specifically antibiotics like Ciprobay, are very damaging. High iron levels, very pro-oxidant, damaging to mitochondria. So it's always worth getting your ferritin levels checked at least once a year. If you find the ferritin levels are too high, and too high is anything over 150, then to go and donate blood is beneficial. Too much food damages mitochondria. Acetaminophen, which is paracetamol. Certain people have a gene SNP where their body can't process acetaminophen, and sometimes babies who've got this gene SNP, literally they go into liver failure and they die on their way to the hospital because it's very, very damaging. Excessive exercise damages mitochondria. and heavy metals. So in the mitochondrial and the ATP module, all of these are addressed, but this just gives you an overview of what can damage the mitochondria and why the body might need to clean them up. Low insulin. So when insulin is low, the pancreas secretes glucagon. Now, if you have a look at the lectures on insulin and glucagon, you'll understand that process. But glucagon is a fat-burning hormone, and it burns ketones. And in actual fact, ketones are quite clean. They burn more cleanly than sugar does in the body. So there are less free radicals formed and less damage to the mitochondria. And we need time when there's no insulin in the body. We need time for the body to actually produce glucagon so that the body can burn the fats and produce ketones. So the self-eating process is natural, and any unused damaged cells and these components, they're disassembled, and the body just chews them up actually. And it allows clean recycling of the components that have been broken up. It is triggered by mild stress, so the mild stress would be a prolonged period of fasting. Exercise triggers autophagy, and particularly high-intensity interval training or Tabata training also triggers autophagy. A high-fat, low-carbohydrate diet with moderate protein helps to trigger autophagy. Intermittent fasting, which of course we're going to be going through now. Good sleep, and AMPK, which we'll address now. So when you're boosting autophagy, one wants to suppress mTOR. So fasting, because mTOR builds, it's a building messenger. So fasting and cutting back on protein then stimulates AMPK, and AMPK stands for AMP activated protein kinase, and it's an enzyme. And what this enzyme does is it breaks down fat, it stimulates the glucose uptake into the cell, inhibits cholesterol synthesis. So to have a regular process of developing AMPK is very beneficial for metabolic processes. And AMPK, so the fasting process stimulates AMPK, and AMPK promotes autophagy, and autophagy of course cleans up all the old dead skin cells. So with AMPK and autophagy, your insulin sensitivity is increased, so that helps insulin resistance. It enhances muscle performance, and of course it promotes weight loss. Certain foods, coffee, green tea, berberine. Berberine is very similar to metformin. Nitric oxide, so the nitric oxide that's found in beetroot, apple cider vinegar, ginger, and turmeric, they all promote AMPK, as does cold therapy, so cold showers, or if you are in a country where you can be like Wim Hof and go swimming in ice cold waters, or you live in Cape Town, then cold therapy is very beneficial, and exercise, and as I said, particularly high intensity interval training. Improving lymph also helps. So to have a rebounder helps to improve lymph. Resistance training also helps to promote AMPK. Infrared saunas, they improve lymph, and that promotes AMPK. And hot yoga, so Bikram yoga, also helps. It's difficult to do Bikram yoga because it's quite challenging, but it is very beneficial. So the second part of this beneficial process is obviously the building part, which is the refeeding part. So you fasted, you have allowed your body to go through the process of autophagy, AMPK has been stimulated, and you get all those benefits with the AMPK. Now it's time to refeed. And when you refeed, your body produces a signaling protein called mTOR, and mTOR is mammalian target of rapamycin. And this tells the body to build and repair. So it's the refeeding that's really very important from a health perspective, so that any damaged components that have been cleaned up now can go through the process of repairing. And it's triggered by food, especially amino acids, so of course especially by protein. And it's a growth signaling hormone. So it triggers the process of muscle growth, fat, but it also stimulates the growth of cancer cells. So you want a balance between the refeeding and the building and the AMPK. So AMPK inhibits mTOR. So you need the AMPK in the fasting part, and the rebuilding part, you need the mTOR. Who can't fast? It's not advisable for pregnant women. If you're underweight, fasting is a bad idea because your body doesn't have that excess weight to just see you through. Any frail and elderly people over the age of 70, because they very often have sarcopenia, which is muscle wasting, and fasting is not a good idea for them. Liver and kidney disease, because in the reprocessing, so the breaking up of the cellular components and the release and the reprocessing them, liver and kidney are important. So any liver and kidney disease is going to block that process. If you're on medication, you need supervision. It doesn't mean that you can't fast, but you need to be supervised, and especially if you're on diabetic or antihypertensives, or if you're a competitive athlete in training, because your body needs as much energy as it possibly can, because the breakdown in training is going to be greater. So your body needs protein and nutrients to rebuild. When you're fasting, avoid hot showers because they drop your blood pressure. So you don't want to faint. Avoid heavy workouts, which sort of makes sense so you don't drop the weight on your chest. If you live alone and you feel that you're going to struggle with it, just advise somebody that you're doing it so that they can check on you. If you're working heavy machinery or you do a lot of driving, if you're fasting again, because you might get hypoglycemic and lightheaded, you don't want to have accidents. So fasting of more than 24 hours, so prolonged fasting, can be done once a month, or you can do it a few times a year, or intermittent fasting is actually, you can do that every day. Questions that arise: can I fast if I'm diabetic? But yes, you can. It's good because diabetics very often are insulin resistant, but just speak to your doctor about that. And long fasts are maybe not advisable. Rather do intermittent fasting and do an overnight intermittent fast. So for example, if you stop eating food at 7, you only eat again at 9 o'clock the next morning. Progress slowly into it. So get into a situation where you can comfortably go 4 to 5 hours between meals. Then you progress to an overnight fast, then possibly a fasting mimicking diet, which is over 5 days. Alcohol is not allowed on intermittent fasting or on any kind of a fast. If you're going to have your supplements and you're doing fasting mimicking diet, then take your supplements with the food, even though your quantity of food is less. If you are doing a clean fast, then supplements, it depends on the supplement really. It might be advisable for you to discuss the supplements with your healthcare practitioner. But minerals are a good idea when you're fasting because your body does need the potassium and the magnesium. Another question is, will I lose muscle mass? So there have been several trials on this, and although there was a small amount of lean muscle mass lost, it was negligible. In total, average loss was about 9 pounds for obese and about 4.5 for the overweight. But obviously this amount, that is really over a fasting mimicking diet, which is 5 days of about 500 calories per day. If you're fasting overnight and you're doing intermittent fasting, then you obviously need to get into that pattern and do it, over a period of months for you to start noticing that your weight is dropping off. But it is actually very beneficial and the body responds very well to it. So thanks for your time and your attention. If you have any questions, please contact your health coach, or if you need a little bit more help in your process of losing weight or intermittent fasting, contact your health coach.